Shakespeare Homework Part 2. Religion. When Elizabeth was crowned queen, she made religion her priority. She realised how important it was to make a clear religious framework, and in the time frame of 1559 and 1563, she introduced acts which made up the church settlement. It returned England to the Protestant faith, stating that public worship, religious books such as the Bible and prayers were to be conducted in English rather than Latin. This was a lot easier for the people who couldn't read Latin, obviously. The new Book of Common Prayer was introduced. This was adapted from earlier books used under the Protestant king, Edward VI. The Queen, Elizabeth I, was very careful to not erase all traces of Catholic worship and retained some of the traditions. She kept some of the traditions, like candlesticks and crucifixes and clerical robes. By doing this and pursuing a policy of moderation, she was trying to maintain the status quo, and though Puritans were particularly upset by the continuance of some Catholic traditions, there was an uneasy compromise reached, and it maintained throughout her reign. Health, or rather lack of. There wasn't much sanitation in Elizabethan times. The cities and towns were filthy, and they didn't clean instruments and tools and that after surgery, which only made the risks of catching diseases higher. Their diet was mostly meat, and on rare occasions they'd have vegetables, which led to, unfortunately, scurvy due to lack of vitamin C. And of course, explorers brought in diseases when they came back home and when they came through England. Examples of diseases they brought back were smallpox and syphilis. Most common diseases at this time frame were smallpox, measles, malaria, diphtheria, scarlet fever, chickenpox, and typhus. Medicines then were very different to the ones we use now. They used to believe in magic that helped heal wounds. Gemstones were used as well, and there seems to be some of that still going on in today's society. Garnets were used to keep the sorrow at bay. Topaz and a stone spelled out Jacinth, jacinth, I don't know, jacinth, were used to lower anger. They believed in astrology, and they mostly used herbs. They used different kinds of herbs for different diseases, and used them where diseases had also spread. They also believed in the four elements of air, water, earth, and fire. The main cause of death in this time frame was the plague itself. The plague had apparently changed how literature was written, and the plague originated in Central Asia. The class system very simply went: nobility, the king, the queen, duke, baron, earl, the lords and ladies, a position achieved through either birthright or royal grant. The gentry, knights, squires, gentlemen, gentlewomen, people who didn't work with their hands. Yeomanry, the middle class, farmers, tradesmen, guild workers, craftsmen. And then at the very bottom rung, the poor, the old, the feeble, physically unable to work. Elizabethan England had welfare, though, and a poor tax, as it was called, helped them out a very little bit. Art was a favourite of Queen Elizabeth. She was very fond of portraits and miniatures. Textiles and embroidery were also very popular to those who could afford them when decorating. These were very grandly made, of course. Music became very refined in this time period, and literature was mostly influenced and inspired by Italy, which was where most of Shakespeare's plays were set, as I said in my last video, for other reasons as well, to avoid any trouble with the royal family here. And thus ends part 2 of my Shakespeare coursework.